All right, 2.1. Coming back to Hugo. Just a recap. Remember, Hugo was caught. He was in a jail. He escaped. He tripped in front of a train, almost got ran over, but was saved by the station inspector. And then Georges Méliès came. And then 6 months later, this, I believe, is Hugo. So, chapter 11, The Magician. Hugo finished putting on his tuxedo. He rubbed the buttons and admired how smooth and shiny they were, catching his reflection in the mirror. He stared for a moment. He thought that he looked almost grown up. The Mélièses, difficult name, had emptied out a small storage room in the back of their apartment, and now that room belonged to Hugo. The French Film Academy, through the intervention of René Tabard, arranged for money to be given to the Méliès family, and some of that money went into furnishing Hugo's room. There was a small workbench at one end, and it was covered with little mechanical creatures made out of clockworks and magic tricks of all shapes and sizes, which Hugo had made himself. The school year had begun again, and Hugo had a desk for doing homework. His shelves were covered in books, and he had many souvenirs from the Paris World's Fair, which he and Isabelle had attended a month earlier. His father's notebook was safe inside a box in his bedside table. His floor was littered with drawings. He had a little drawer just for ticket stubs of the movies he and Isabelle saw together. In the darkness of a new cinema that opened in the nearby neighborhood, Hugo was able to travel backward through time and see dinosaurs and pirates and cowboys, and he saw the future with robots and cities so gigantic they blocked out the sky. He flew in airplanes and crossed the ocean in ships. In the dark of the movie theater, he first saw jungles, oceans, and deserts. He wanted to visit them in real life. In one corner of the room stood the automaton which Hugo and Papa Georges had repaired to perfection. Hugo stuffed his pockets with little magic tricks and cards, as he usually did, checked his railroad watch, and knocked on Isabelle's door. She opened the door, wearing a white dress that seemed to glow. In the living room, Georges Méliès had on a tuxedo with his black celestial cape, which had been lovingly mended and cleaned by his wife, and was now as bright and colorful as the day it was made, and she wore a dress that sparkled like water. Etienne soon arrived wearing a beautiful black tuxedo and a brand new eye patch. Hugo picked up the invitation that lay on the table. The French Film Academy invites you to join us for an evening celebration of the life and work of cinema legend Georges Méliès. Two gleaming motor cars pulled up to the doors of their apartment building, and everyone headed outside. "Oh, my camera! I almost forgot," said Isabelle. She raced back to her room and got the black and silver camera her godparents had given her for her birthday. "Will you carry some extra film for me tonight?" she asked Hugo as she handed him the rolls, which he stuffed into his pocket. "And I've been meaning to give this to you." She then handed Hugo a photo she had taken of him with his old friends Antony and Luis. They all had their arms around one another's necks, and they were laughing. "Thanks," said Hugo. He smiled and slipped it into his jacket pocket. Isabelle adjusted the camera and the key on its chain around her neck so they hung properly. Outside, the drivers helped them into the cars, and off they sped to the Film Academy. "It's been a very long time since I've been here before," said the old man as they neared their destination. "Maybe I'll ask to see the picture of Prometheus I painted when I was young." "You painted that picture, Papa Georges?" said Hugo, amazed. "I thought it was of Prometheus. I saw it in the library." "It's still hanging? That's good news. You know the myth, then." The children told him they did. "Then you know Prometheus was rescued in the end. His chains were broken, and he was finally set free." The old man squinted one of his eyes and added, "How about that?" Once everyone was seated in the theater, Monsur Tabard went to the podium. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is René Tabard, and I will be your host for the evening. We have gathered here tonight to honor one of our pioneers, Georges Méliès, who brought magic to the movies. For years his films were believed to be lost. Indeed, Monsieur Méliès himself was believed to be gone. But we have a most wonderful surprise for the world. Monsieur Méliès is here tonight, and not all of his films were destroyed. Thanks to the diligence of one of the students here, Etienne Cruchon, and with help on the weekends from Hugo and Isabelle, the two brave children who are being raised by Monsieur and Madame Malaise, we went back and checked one last time. Starting with one film that we found in our own basement, ATN, Hugo and Isabel searched through vaults and long-closed archives. They took trips to private collections and such strange places as barns and catacombs, where their work was richly rewarded. They found old negatives, boxes of prints, and trunks full of decaying film, which we were able to save. We now have in our possession over 80 films by Monsur Malaise, a small fraction of the 500 he produced. But I'm confident that in the years to come, even more movies will resurface. Tonight, Georges Méliès, my boyhood hero, is being rediscovered. Now sit back, open your eyes, and be prepared to dream. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the world of Georges Méliès. The audience cheered and applauded. The lights went down and the orchestra began to play as curtains opened. Film by film, Georges' world was projected on screen for the first time in over a decade. 10 years. Over 10 years. And see these. These are pictures of real people because these are real movies. These movies actually exist. Wow. And then the last film was shown, A Trip to the Moon. Hugo looked at Isabel. Tears were running down her cheeks in two thin, glimmering lines. The lights came up, and the man of honor was then invited up on stage, where he was given a good laurel wreath to wear as a crown. He stepped to the podium and said to the audience in a proud, emotion-filled voice, "As I look out at all of you gathered here, I want to say that I don't see a room full of Parisians in top hats and diamonds and silk dresses. I don't see bankers and housewives and store clerks. No, I address you all tonight as you truly are. Wizards, mermaids, travelers, adventurers, and magicians. You are the true dreamers." After the gala ended, they all went to a small party in his honor at the nearby restaurant. Isabel took photographs the entire night, and Hugo sat at a table doing magic tricks. A rather sizable crowd soon gathered around Hugo. Georges Méliès walked over to where Hugo was sitting, put his hands on Hugo's shoulder, and said to everyone, "I want you all to remember this moment. I believe this is the first public performance ever given by Professor Alcofribas." Hugo looked up and asked, "Who's Professor Alcofribas?" "You are, my boy. Professor Alcofribas was a character who appeared in many of my films, sometimes as an explorer, sometimes as an alchemist, a person who can turn anything to gold, but mostly he was a magician, and now he has appeared in real life right here in this very room." In that moment, the machinery of the world lined up. Somewhere a clock struck midnight, and Hugo's future seemed to fall perfectly into place. What's that future? What is Hugo going to turn into? We only have one more chapter, a short conclusion to our book, The Invention of Hugo Cabret.